Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, here with my co-host, Cody Almasi. Cody, how are we feeling today, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing better every week than I am previously when Michigan keeps winning, and we're headed to the college football playoffs, so we're lit over here.
Oh, yeah. Feelings and spirits are high over there in your camp, especially the Michigan Wolverines, absolutely embarrassing the Iowa Hawkeyes, holding them to 3 points in the Big Ten Championship. We'll be talking about that game along with many other games here tonight on tonight's show. This is the championship week recap show. So we'll be diving into each of the major conferences and their championships as conference titles were given out and earned. They weren't given out, they were earned. So we'll be diving into those very deeply. This is the championship week recap here. And thank you guys for joining us today on a Monday, December 6th, 2021. We're getting into the thick of it now. Decisions have been made. Selection Sunday is behind us. So it's all here and now. It's all coming to the forefront, which we're really excited about. We couldn't be more happy that we're finally getting to this point in the season. Things are getting even more interesting as we continue on here through December. So just a couple games that we want to touch on that weren't really major games on our radar that we should touch on. First one being the AAC Championship, Pitt versus Wake Forest. Let's talk about that game briefly. What were some highlights in that game, Cody?
I don't know really what happened here. I obviously was locked into the Big Ten Championship at this time. They were on at the exact same time. So I don't know who scheduled that, but L. And I looked and it was like 24-21. I sent in the group chat to the Gin boys. Looks like a gem of a game. Can I get an update? And then next thing I know, 45-21 route. And I'm seeing highlights of a fake slide everywhere by Kenny Pickett on his way to the house on a scramble. I'm not really sure. I haven't really seen anything like that. I know a lot of people are mad about it, and a lot of people think it was like one of the coolest things they've ever seen. So where do you stand when it comes to the fake slide?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked me that. So the Kenny Pickett fake slide, something we haven't seen before. I think you're kind of taking advantage of the slide move, which is relatively a new move from quarterbacks all over the league. So obviously you slide, you're untouchable by the defense. If you even touch or come close to attacking the quarterback, usually it's a quarterback that's going to be initiating the slide. If you come close to him, usually it's automatic flag, automatic 15 yards, no matter how bad it looks. You make contact, especially by the head or neck area, and it is going to be a penalty. So I think he's kind of taking advantage of that rule. I think they should be more lenient on the contact involving the slide from defenders, just because I think that, that's a big reason why those defenders didn't attack him and go for that hit. Because, I mean, like we said before, we've never seen anything like this. We've never seen this happen before. Nobody's seen this happen, even the people that made this rule. And the rule is out there to protect quarterbacks. I understand that. But to take advantage of that rule, I think there needs to be some changes in place to be able to, not allow quarterbacks to overutilize this and take advantage of this rule. So I can see both sides of it. I think it's a smart move from Kenny Pickett's point of view, just to take advantage of that rule and use it to his advantage and in that big run. So he would likely have got hit and stopped if he didn't try to attempt that fake slide. So impressive move.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Honestly, it just took all the words out of my mouth. Even the second point I was gonna add on to. So well done, my friend. And
thanks.
He was a maestro for taking advantage of it. And
yeah. He was. I guess, what do you see after that happened? Because you know that there's rule makers, there's referees, there's people officiating the game, people watching and analyzing the game. What do you think is going to take place regarding this rule and quarterbacks going forward after this happened?
Yeah, I definitely think they'll have to make some kind of amendment to that, not being able to fake a slider. They'll have to get tricky with how, I don't think they'll want to take it away completely, but they're definitely going to try to manipulate it a little bit. And
yeah, definitely attributed to the Pittsburgh Panthers win 45-21 over the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Big win. I had Pittsburgh in that game in a bet. So I was happy to see that one hit pretty convincingly. The spread was pretty tight. So that was a good one.
Has NFL aspirations, and I think he's going to come up just shy of the Heisman. He's going to finish in that 2-3 range, but hell of a job. And the fake slide didn't hurt, but I think Bryce Young's performance, which we'll talk about later, was just a little too much.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely more impressive considering the circumstances. Another game to note in the Mountain West Championship game, the Utah State Aggies overcame the San Diego State Aztecs 46-13. Big win for the Aggies, and they got to be impressed with that. What were your takeaways from that game?
This is more of the Brady Hoke that I know, blowing it in the big time games, going 11-1, I think, with Michigan, and then losing that bowl game. So this is the Brady Hoke I know and love and had set it up with back there in the Amazing Blue days, but didn't get too much time to tune into this one. I know that Devin Tompkins, we talked about him a little bit last Monday, superstar wide receiver for the Aggies. He had himself a hell of a game. So not too much else to say about the Mountain West Conference over here.
Yeah, Logan Bonner going 29 for 42, 318 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pretty much unscathed throughout the day. Got a little bit comfortable later in the game, but wound up getting the win. And an important thing to note in this game, after the first quarter, the score was 0-0. So you had goose eggs all over the place. And that's when Utah State really took the bull by the horns and started scoring some points. So that was a late bloomer type of game, but it was a good one nonetheless. Utah State taking the Mountain West Championship, winning that conference title there. And the final one is in the Sun Belt, Appalachian State against the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. And I talked about this a little bit pre-show with Cody, with the absence of Billy Napier not being at the helm, not being in that head coaching position. I figured that Louisiana would have found some type of hardship going through this game, especially with the stakes being so high and the coaching carousel really rearing its ugly head so late in the season, especially when it counts. And I think that's when, you see the worst of it, regardless of loyalty and everything like that. We're going to wind up the show. We're going to finish up the show with the coaching carousel again today. But just to see that happen and to see them overcome that and win against Appalachian State, a strong Appalachian State team, 24-16, going undefeated in the Sun Belt. Really an impressive performance, and they have something to be proud of.
Definitely. Go Raging Cajuns, baby.
Yeah.
Can't forget about Utah though as well. Just real quick, dominating fucking Oregon again.
Oh yeah, that one's on our docket. Don't worry, we got the Pac-12 championship on our docket. We'll be talking about that one quite a bit. The rematch game.
Snoozer.
Yeah, that was a doozy of a game, especially if you're an Oregon Duck. So we'll be talking about that one. So, but first one we got to talk about the college football playoff contender, Cincinnati and the Bearcats. Let's talk about them real quick. The American Athletic Conference Championship game, Cincy against Houston. What do you have to say about this game?
You know, it was a good game up until half. Got to give the Houston Cougars credit, but the Bearcats exploded in the third quarter for 21 points and kind of put the game on ice, ran the clock out from there. The game was over with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Jerome Ford, can't say enough about his performance. 2 electric, explosive runs, one for 79 yards and another for 42. Both ended up in the end zone, and he had 187 total on the night on 18 carries, and pretty much just set up Desmond Ridder to have a nice, easy time back there in the pocket. 190 yards, only had to throw it 17 times, 11 completions, and 3 touchdowns. And the Bearcats looked good. I think that they should have moved up to number 3. Not the same opinion that the committee shares, but that's to be discussed. Linebacker Joel DeBlanco makes a great read on an interception and picks off Clayton Tune. That's the quarterback of the Houston Cougars. Picks off Clayton Tune and really starts the snowball effect that ended up being 35-13.
Yeah, that was a tight game. And coming into halftime, it was 13-14 since he had him by 1 point. And I believe I had Houston, what was it, plus 10.5? And I called that on the Friday show, and I'm like, I felt pretty confident about that. I'm like, this Houston team, they're not SMU. They're stronger. They got a stronger offensive core. So I anticipated to have a closer game, a smaller margin. It was a smaller margin, but it wasn't enough to cover. That 4.5 points in Cincinnati's favor allowed them to cover that game in stylish fashion. And
yeah, like I said, they ran it up to 35-13 with 5 minutes left to go in the third. So that's 20 minutes that the Cougars had to cover, and they just couldn't get it done. Cincinnati's defense had 8 sacks, and we're all over Clayton Tune back there. So give credit to the defense. They just an all-around well-oiled machine is what this team is, and speaks to the depth and just complete. No one aspect of it really outshines the other. Obviously, Desmond Ridder's been there a long time, so we know his name, but just all facets, special teams, defense, and offense are clicking, and the Bearcats are looking good headed into the CFP.
Yeah, look out for the Cincinnati Bearcats. They're coming out with a passion, and they're coming out very inspired. And we really haven't seen them fumble. We haven't seen them falter yet, which we've been expecting to see them happen, against teams like SMU and Houston and other teams that should have gave them more hell than what turned out to be the case. Now they got the college football playoff in their sights, and now, I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel bad for any team that comes in their way. And there's a lot of analysis that is being conducted that is anticipating a Michigan-Cincinnati final. So watch out. This is going to be a college football playoff that we haven't seen before. As far as caliber, especially a non-Power 5 team like the Cincinnati Bearcats coming into the college football playoff, the top 4. This is something that's unprecedented. So watch out for these Cincinnati Bearcats. They are not done yet, and they're going to be doing some damage going down the stretch. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
Houston 11-2. They earned themselves a trip to the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl. I might come up with a segment in the coming weeks where I just throw bowl names at you and you tell me if they're real or not.
That's a great question. I would love to do that, and I hope to go over 500 in that quest. And I got to give myself props and good luck beforehand to hope I do good. So that's good. That'll be a fun segment to do. Let's move on though. For now, let's talk about the Big 12 Championship. Big 12 Championship. This is a hell of a game. This came down to the wire. This was a game where I really trusted the Baylor Bears, and I wanted them to win. And this really epitomized the fact that this is a game of inches. Okay, this is a game of inches. It comes down to the very centimeter sometimes. And this happened to be the case, fighting for the pylon late in the game. Oklahoma State with everything on the line to win the game. Their entire season's hopes are on the line here at this point. They couldn't get the ball in the end zone. What happened in this game to allow the Baylor Bears to supersede the Oklahoma State Cowboys?
Yeah, I think what really did it, I mean, the Bears played a complete game. Got to give credit to Blake Shapen. He's the backup quarterback, made the second start, actually named the MVP of the game. 3 touchdowns, had a great clutch 28-yard run throughout the game. But I think the big difference was the Cowboys defense couldn't outplay Spencer Sanders throwing 4 interceptions. And he threw 3 in the first half, and it was pretty much the Baylor Bears. I mean, it was only a 5-point game. They had the chance there with the last 25 seconds to win. But just think about if you don't throw 4 interceptions, where are you sitting at? And you had such a great year to force those balls in those moments. Just hate to see it. Yeah, but Baylor, you got to give them so much credit. Being able to stop them, that last play was something I'll always remember. I was locked into that whole game, and man, I thought for sure he was getting that pylon, but that's not how the story goes.
Something I just want to point out real quick, and I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see it. And this is the ESPN page, the game cast of this game. So Desmond Jackson, you can see it written down here, came up inches short in a desperate 4th down dive in the final seconds for Oklahoma State. They were within the 5, going 1st and goal. I think they were on the 3-yard line. You got to give all the props in the world to this Baylor Bears defense. Look at this right here. This is what I want to point out. You go, this is 2nd and 1, 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Baylor's at 69.7. Then, Spencer Sanders and the Oklahoma State Cowboys make a run. It starts going into Oklahoma State's favor. It gets all the way to 75% in Oklahoma State's favor with 53 seconds left in the 4th. They are within, they're on the Baylor 1 at this point. And then it just spikes back up, goes 100% Baylor right at the last second. That is impressive right there. Look at that. Look at that graphic. And the fluctuation in the dire moments, I think, was the deciding factor in this Baylor Bears defense to put up the goal line stand. I mean, that's unprecedented. That's incredible. That's a game of inches, and that's the game of football, especially when we're talking about conference titles and we're talking about fighting for pride and fighting for that top spot in the conference. So really impressive stuff from the Baylor Bears. I was very impressed to watch this, and I had them in a parlay, so I was even happier.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think happened? Oklahoma State, you said if they win this game, you think that Georgia gets kicked out and they hop in? Or
so we'll be talking about this at the end of the show, but this is my hot take of the day, and I got to have at least one a day, or I got to keep myself honest by having these hot takes. I think just based on, look at the facts, look at the stakes with Georgia losing to a team like Alabama, a team that almost lost to Auburn. I don't know. They've shown me so much strength this whole year to get, essentially, I don't want to say blown out, but they lost by a considerable margin to the number 3 team. I want to kick them out of the top 4 with how high the stakes are. If Oklahoma State doesn't lose, they're sitting at 5. If Notre Dame doesn't go with Marcus Freeman and Brian Kelly doesn't jump ship and go to LSU, that obviously tarnishes their chances sitting at number 6. If those 2 things don't happen, if Oklahoma State wins the game, I say you put Oklahoma State at number 4, put Cincy at 3, Michigan at 2, and Bama at 1. And that's just how I would do it, just because I got to consider the stakes. How high are they? And losing a game, especially getting beat by the number 3 team. It's not like you lost to the number 2 team. You're only going down, 2-3 spots, and you're still staying in the college football playoff. I just don't think it's fair to the other teams that could have been in there. But since everything else transpired, it made it really easy for the committee to make that decision to keep them in the top 4, because no one that was knocking on the door on that 4th spot was really that impressive to be able to come in and enter that top 4 ranking spot. So there's a lot of ways you can look at it. I'm glad I'm not on the committee and I don't have to get bricks thrown through my window for making certain decisions. And it made it really easy for the committee to make this decision to keep them in the top 4. So it all wound up working out at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's definitely, you're not wrong in that way of thinking, because people are speculating FKS did happen this weekend. Did Baylor deserve a look, for one of the top 4 spots because they beat the number 5 team. Right. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, it's a lot to consider, a lot of variables to be considered. But I think the right decisions were made at the end of the day. Let's move on. Let's talk about the SEC Championship. Very pertinent issue. This kind of transitions very well into what we were just talking about. Alabama and Georgia, the Bulldogs against the Crimson Tide, number 1 versus number 3. And I mean, this was a dogfight going into halftime, but it was looking really good for Alabama for most of the game. What did you see in this game that made it go Alabama's way and made Georgia suffer?
I mean, neither team really did super great on the ground. They both just broke 100 yards, but Alabama outrushed Georgia, who was supposed to have a pretty good run game coming into it, and they outrushed them, only rushing 115 yards. I think that was a huge part of it. It forced Stetson Bennett to try and make plays down the field when he hasn't had to do that against anybody. He didn't even play in their best win of the season in Clemson, And so I said this to my wife the day I said, if I forget to tell anybody this, I think that JT Daniels is going to get maybe not started, but he's getting subbed in against Michigan if Michigan starts to have their way with it. But that's a little foreshadowing there.
I can see that happening.
But Bryce Young, breaks my heart, but I think he stole the Heisman performance. He really looked good. He broke the SEC Championship record for most yards in a game with 421. And Jamison Williams, man, I don't know if you've seen that touchdown. He's first got on the board for the Crimson Tide, and he just displayed his speed. The man has wheels. He took off, and he was on the other side of the field and just outmaneuvered everybody. And he just looks so fast. And man, people are mad we have to face Georgia. That is what it is. I mean, ideally, I'd like to play Cincinnati, but I don't want to play Alabama with how they look right now. They look pretty good, and Nick Saban's got the team clicking on all cylinders when it matters most.
How do you feel that the absence of John Mechie III will be affecting the Crimson Tide going forward? As it just got released that he tore his ACL, he will not be playing going forward. How will that affect the Crimson Tide and their offense? They're going to have to utilize Jamison Williams a hell of a lot more. He's going to probably become Bryce Young's number one target because John Mechie III was that guy. How is this going to affect? Is this going to mess with the chemistry within the Crimson Tide camp, or do you think they'll go on without a hitch?
Actually, Jamison Williams is the leading wide receiver. He has 15 TDs compared to Mechie's 8, and he has about 300 yards on him. So, but it might just be by pure fact that Mechie is the guy they have tape on, and he gets double teamed. So Jamison draws all that, but they're a hell of a duo, and he's going to have to lean on Jamison Williams even more now. But Alabama is one of those universities where there's a guy just sitting and wait at wide receiver 4 or 5 who's just a playmaker who transferred from another team in the Power 5 conferences. So
yeah, they have depth. That's the thing. They have depth. So you really don't have to worry about too many players getting injured.
But Mechie's a big loss.
It is a big loss. I mostly meant as of late, he has been a very, very strong target. They've been putting him in double coverage, and he's still been able to catch passes, catch TDs, and get down the field. So I think it will be a detriment, but I think you're right. I think they do have enough depth to make up for him.
What's his name? He's a little Wes Welker-esque. Slade Bolden is his name. He's a little white slot wide receiver, and he's been stepping up in key moments when Bryce Young has needed them. And if Bryce Young keeps playing like this, I mean, he's only a freshman, and he could be taking it home in December. I'm in New York.
Yeah, they definitely have high potential. We'll be focusing on this Alabama team going forward, and I'm sure they're going to be preparing for the college football playoff games in their future. I think they got Cincinnati. They got Cincinnati first, so we'll see how Cincy handles them, and we'll see how Georgia handles your Wolverines. But let's move on with the rest of these games for the championship week recap. The Pac-12 championship, a rematch between the Utah Utes and the Oregon Ducks. I mean, it looked like a lot of the same to me. What did you see?
Yeah, unfortunately, I thought that Oregon would come with some sauce, be a little pissed off. That's the mantra that they said they were bringing into the game, and it just didn't show. And that kind of reminded me, at least late in the game, I tuned in. Utah's putting that beat down on them. Cam Rising looks good. I want to say that. But Oregon just looks like kids, getting scholarships, coming out there, great athletes, but then not wanting to play. I think his name is Devin Williams, supposed to be their best receiver. I messaged it to you. He looks soft. He losing the game. So down, and he's just like shoving people, getting penalties when you're looking at least decent late in the game, trying to put together some decent drives, have some dignity, and you're pushing kids. Just being emotional. I mean, it's the 3-loss season, and it's twice to the Utah Utes, and you got dominated. So I don't feel sorry for you. You're a D1 athlete at Oregon. You need to grow up and not be getting flagrant penalties like that. But all hats off to the Utah Utes. They deserve everything that they've got this season, going through tragedy, adversity, and Cam Rising. Can't say enough about that kid.
Yeah, you can't say enough about the tenacity, the grit that he shows on the field week after week, and winning against this Oregon team twice, a strong Oregon team twice. They were college football playoff contenders for the longest time. They were sitting there at the top 4 for a very long time. They beat Ohio State. You got to consider all these things, and to see Utah beat this team not only twice in the same year, but two games in a row, really 2 games in a row. It's consecutive games in a row. And some breaking news regarding the Oregon Ducks. Mario Cristobal has left the Oregon Ducks as the head coach and will be taking a job with the Hurricanes of Miami. So Is that a good move? Do you think that's an integrity move, or do you think that that's a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, Pac-12 to ACC, not an incredible leap. I'm not sure. Maybe he's scared of Lincoln Riley and he just sees how his players are responding and he wants to start over. I mean, there's speculation all year of him going somewhere else. So I think this probably just kind of the last couple games have made up his mind for him. And that helps.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I for sure thought Lane Kiffin was going to Miami. So that proves me wrong there, but I'll be excited to see what he does. Especially with another just coaching, Brett Venables leaving Clemson, huge part of their success over the years. Maybe he sees the ACC opening up a little bit.
Yeah, this just adds to the excitement of the coaching carousel and how all these coaches are moving different teams across different conferences. It's going to make things very interesting going into next season. So we'll see what happens. We'll be focusing.
We're super excited for Utah, Ohio State Rose Bowl. That's going to be nasty.
That's going to be a very good game. I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. CJ Stroud against Cam Rising. Can't wait to see that. It's going to be an offensive showcase. And both these defenses are very strong too, so you can't discount these defenses. That's going to be a dogfight. Look for the under in that game. I bet it's going to be low, so watch out for that. We'll focus on that one going forward. Now the game we've all been waiting for. I know Cody's been waiting for this one to talk about the Big Ten Championship, Iowa Hawkeyes, Michigan Wolverines. I mean, what else can you say about the Michigan Wolverines than that's already been said? I mean, they're doing the job. They're getting it done.
Yeah, my boys out here just doing it in emphatic fashion, proving everybody wrong, and just can't wait to see what they do with the remaining games. Everything now icing on the cake, as long as you don't get blown out or look ridiculous. But I think we got a lot more in store for us than that. But 42-3, just especially 14-3 at halftime. We threw a pick or two. I think Cade threw one, and then McCarthy threw one. But to overcome all that stuff and to be where we're at, Jim Harbaugh celebrating, man, I just couldn't be happier enough. And to see Josh Gaddis go in his bag early on with the double pass from Donovan Edwards, throws his first ever collegiate pass for a dime ball to Roman Wilson, and he walks in for a touchdown. And then Blake Corum takes off as well on a 76-yard, or not 76-yard. He had 74 yards total, but it was a 67-yard scamper and looked healthy. And he looked like the thunder to Hassan Haskins. He looked like the lightning to Hassan Haskins' thunder. Hassan Haskins, by the way, 20 touchdowns, the most ever. When he hit 19, it was the most ever by a Michigan running back, but he breaks the record in a single season for most touchdowns. And Aiden Hutchinson, huge sack, and we just looked good, man. I don't know what else to say. I'm kind of just fanboying him at this point.
Yeah. I mean, no one can really blame you for being a fanboy at this point with anyone on the Michigan Wolverines team, and especially a lot of these players are getting the job done. So you can't really blame anybody for that. Got a comment here from Brandon Noves. Kenneth Walker got screwed. And another one. Happy for you though, Codes. Michigan playing their best ball at the perfect time.
Yeah, he was texting me about this, so I told him we were going to get to it. But yeah, man, he sent me the comparison of Aiden Hutchinson and Kenny Willekes, made famous by the Jack Williams. And You know, that guy's just a great guy, but he's out here. He's doing the devil's advocate work for the Spartans. And Kenny Willekes had nowhere near an impact that season as Aiden Hutchinson is having this year. I mean, Kenny Willekes, that was a great year, awesome defensive end and Spartan, but I just don't think you can make that comparison. As far as Kenneth Walker is concerned, my man, he did get hosed a little bit, and it's just everybody else got. I mean, he still had good games to end the season, but the Sparty's success kind of fell to the wayside. And the two people, I mean, besides Kenny Pickett, it's not CJ Stroud, Bryce Young and Aiden Hutchinson and Kenny Pickett are probably who I have finishing top 3. And they're just people who are getting talked about in the news cycle every week. So it's a popularity contest as far as just straight up awards and recognition.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of that comes down to coaching. You got to blame the coaching for Kenneth Walker, and some of his very limited touches in some games. One of them was 6 carries for 24 total yards. That's just inexcusable. That's what a backup running back gets, that sees the field maybe for one series. And that is, that's low for one series. I mean, 6 carries. I mean, I guess it's average for one series, but one series is one series. Compare that to the entire game. That's his entire game stats. That's not just one series. So you got to blame a lot of that on the coaching, trying to, intertwine and interweave different players in there at the running back position. And it comes down to, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So a lot of that blame goes to offensive coordinators and other coaches, personnel at the Michigan State Spartans camp. So I got to blame a lot of it on that. Jack Williams, I love you, brother. I hope I have you on the podcast again soon. But I don't want to incorporate myself and my persona into that breed of Spartan fans, because I don't think that's a good look, especially got to keep an objective outlook here on the Gin College podcast, first of all. And we got to look at the realism of the situation. Look forward, not backward. And you can't be in denial about anything that's going on. It's all happening right in front of us. We can see the statistics. We can see the performances week after week. So there's no rhyme or reason to get hung up on that and what could have been and all that stuff. So you got to be able to focus on the forward, not the backward. So,
and as far as K9 is concerned, your man's bringing home a bunch of hardware. So you guys can be happy about that.
Oh, yeah. He's got a lot of promise. Even if it's not at the college level, he'll probably break records at the next level. So I'm not really too worried about KW, the third. I'm excited to see what he can, do going forward. He's going to have a lot of potential and a lot of opportunities to succeed at whatever level of football he plays. So
see my father, Big Ron, in the comments. Go Blue Dad. You know what it is, man. You already know. This is what we've always wanted, always been waiting for. And
oh, yeah.
I think we're going to shut Georgia up, especially if they stick with Stetson Bennett. I think we exploit him, and we'll see what happens. A lot left to play for. As far as Iowa's concerned, they had some good defensive plays. I wanted to say that Alex Padilla looked like the quarterback who should have been playing a lot more of the reps this year. That when they made that quarterback switch from what's his name, Petrus, to Alex Padilla, he's the quarterback in weight. He looked a lot better. Dude looked like he had no fear. I mean, you put him in an awful position, so you got to take that into account. But yeah, Alex Padilla, good job. I think he will be a force to be reckoned with at Iowa to come. And Iowa, they get the Citrus Bowl against Kentucky. And I'm interested to see how Iowa plays. It's one of those situations because Kentucky, Billy Napier, he's out. So how do they play? Not Billy Napier. Is it? Who is Kentucky's coach?
Kentucky's coach. It's blanking me right now. I'm going to have to do a quick Google search on that.
He did.
But I'll address a comment right here from Brandon. Thank you for the comment, Brandon. Thanks for tuning into the show, man. I'm glad you like it. Continue to comment and continue to tune in to everything that we're doing over here. Mark Stoops is the coach at Kentucky.
Oh, and he agreed on an extension.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. So they might be playing for that man.
Yeah, exactly. They could have been. And just to touch on and hint towards bowl week, we'll be touching on that a lot more on Friday, along with the Heisman presentation, which is on December 11th. We'll be touching on that. The Spartans of Michigan State will have the Peach Bowl. They will host Pittsburgh. It's going to be a reunion of Pat Narduzzi and the Spartans, which we haven't seen in a long time. So that's going to be a nice little matchup there. That's going to be a great game. Pitt is no one to sleep on. So you got to look out for them. The Panthers, they got it figured out. And they're going to give a really good test, I think, to the Spartans in a little bit of a cross-conference battle.
Yeah, he might pull out a fake slide on y'all.
Oh man, he better not. I'm gonna have to go down there and lay him out. I'll have to like run the field and just lay him out, no pads. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But
Cold
I don't know.
storm.
That's gonna be an interesting topic too. We got to focus on that. We got to stay on that because that is going to be something. Everyone saw that. Everybody saw that happen. So there's going to be quarterbacks that are going to be trying to use that move until something's done about it. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be interesting to see how that kind of moves on, because that you can't deny the fact that limits the defender in that situation. It limits what they're able to do, because when you see the quarterback initiate the slide, you're already hands off. You already see him. You could be 10, 15 yards out, ready to lay the wood on him. And he's about to, initiate the slide, and you're backing off because you don't want to get a 15-yard penalty, because nobody's you see him initiate the slide.
The rules have been trending the last 10 to 15 years as far as protecting the quarterback, targeting, getting ejected. It's ingrained, conditioned into you to start to ease up, like you said, and just try to avoid hurting the player and drawing a penalty and hurting your team. So definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll be focusing on that as well. Let's just talk about the college football playoff one last time before we kind of go into it. It's already been set. Selection Sunday has happened, so there's no reason for any more projections on our end. It's already set in stone. I guess, what bones to pick would you have with the college football playoff as it stands, and what changes would you make if you could?
I think probably everybody would guess that I'd want to put Michigan in there at number 1. I'm fine with being number 2. Alabama, they destroyed Georgia, the number 1 team, and we beat Ohio State 2 weeks ago, the number 2 team. And then I was not super impressive. So I'm all good with being number 2, being a little bit humble, obviously I think we're the best. But where I think they got it wrong is I think that Cincinnati should be 3 and Georgia should be 4. And I mean, 13-0, the only undefeated team, and nobody really even held a candle to them all year except for Notre Dame, and that was still an 11-point win over where Notre Dame finished, right there in the top 7. So that's a quality win, if I do say so myself. And Georgia's quality win is over Clemson, and they look like that this late in the season against Alabama. I think you got to get knocked down to 4. It doesn't matter where you were at before that, and yeah, that's my issue with it.
Yeah, at the worst, go down to 4. And like I said already, I already alluded to this. Kick them out of the top 4. They don't deserve to be in the top 4. And Cincinnati, they've been putting it all together just to make it to this top 4. They've been fighting tooth and nail to get to the top 4. And you're telling me that they don't get to make it above Georgia, and they're lossless. They win their conference title game. Georgia loses their conference title game to a team ranked lower than them. I think it comes down to the College Football Playoff Committee wanting to set the stage for a Georgia-Alabama final. I mean, is that what they're doing here? That's got to be their angle, right?
Definitely trying to avoid the rematch. And you hate to see it, 2 SEC teams in. I would have liked it if they would have had to rematch right away and really put Georgia to the test, because I think Alabama is going to be there, nothing against Cincinnati. But out of all 3 teams, I said it earlier, Alabama's the one I don't want to play. I think maybe we got lucky getting Georgia. I might be alone and Michigan fans thinking about that. But when you just look at all 4 of the teams collectively, I think that UGA is the 4th on that list.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement. But we'll see how it plays out. The stage has been set. The college football playoff has been decided. And we'll see how every team does. Every team will perform. They'll have the opportunity to play any other team within that top 4, depending on how they play. So it's win or go home at this point. And we hope we can see the expansion happen within, of the period between the ending of this season and the beginning of next season, because once that's set in stone, that makes a lot more opening. It gives a lot more teams the opportunity to make it to that top spot. Yes, it is more games, but I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. The fans, the players, the ratings for all these, broadcast companies, for the stadiums that host the games, that's ticket sales, that's, concessions, all that stuff. It's a win-win-win-win for everybody involved. So I don't see them not doing it. Hopefully we hear more conversations about that between now and then. But we'll just have to stay tuned with it and make sure we're in the loop so we don't miss anything. But I'm excited for that to happen when it does. I think it's only a matter of time. I don't think it's not going to happen. I just think it's a matter of time before it happens.
Most definitely. And I think some more of these teams deserve a piece of the pie. I think if you make it 6 or 8, some of those teams sitting at their 5, 6, 7, 8 have a chance to upset some of the teams in the top 4 right now. So
Definitely.
if any year made a case, this year definitely did.
Oh, definitely. It opened the eyes of the committee, hopefully. And hopefully they get to work in the offseason to make it happen. Good deal. Good deal. Cody, do you have any final statements before we sign off today?
Go blue, baby. Headed to the CFP. You know what it is. Finish the job, boys. Work's not done.
Work's not done. You're only 2-0 in a game, in a series of 7. So make sure you figure it out. I'm going to be rooting for the Wolverines. Everyone, especially in my household, they're all big Sparty fans, okay? I got to be careful that they don't hear me. But I'm going to be rooting for the Wolverines. They're our only Big Ten representation in the college football playoff, and they're not Ohio State. So that's something to be excited about right then and there. So I'm excited for the Wolverines. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. This is their year to do it. They've been waiting for this for a long time, especially under the reign of Jim Harbaugh. He's been waiting for this for a long time. So it's going to be a test of their ability, a test of their strength going into some high pressure situations. So I'm excited for them.
Dude looked like a kid in a candy shop. He looked just above it. He looks like a kid just excited to be there, man. He was just all smiles and so genuine. You just got to be happy for the guy.
Yeah, you do. And I've never seen him that happy. Usually, even after wins, he's not really that happy. He's just kind of, really, I don't want to say monotone, but he's kind of, definitely straight face. He's all business usually, but he was wide eyed and bushy tailed after this win. So he's excited, and they deserve it. They've done everything they had to do to get to this point. They have nothing left to do but to get the rest of the job done. So let's see how the Wolverines do in the college football playoff. Hopefully they finish the job and bring it home for the boys. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Gin College Podcast. Make sure to follow all of our socials. I'll put the link tree at the bottom of the screen below for your enjoyment. Make sure to share all of our posts, all of our tweets, all of our Instagram pictures, all of our Facebook posts, so we get the word out to everybody that needs to hear the message. And we hope to see you guys on here next time. But for now, I'm your host, as always, John J. II with the Gin College Podcast with my co-host, Cody Almasi. Have a great night.